Good evening, traders. Welcome to the CloudChartist weekly Ichimoku wrap-up for the week ending November 11th. This is Sunday night, November 13th, and I'm going to start off with the ES weekly chart. We had a very long candle last week, putting in a low of 20.2850 and a high of 21.8050. So very big range for the ES. We all know why. I won't go into detail there, but suffice to say, the candle ended up to be quite bullish on the close. We closed a fair bit off the high. We closed at 21.6050 after, so about 20 points off the high. But overall, we have made it back into fully bullish territory in Ichimoku terms. So as far as what we have going forward, if we do find continued selling, we do have support at the Tenkan-sen below. That's all the way down at 21.0450. So that's 56 points thereabouts lower. So it's a possibility that we could sell back that far. We'll see what happens. We're kind of in this difficult area from all of this prior consolidation area after we sort of chopped around from, say, last July until the beginning of September when we had this large selling candle. If you hear some noises in the background, my cat is climbing the screen. Expect a crashing noise any moment. Hold on just a moment. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I had to pause for a moment to rescue the hang in there kitty from the top of the window. As I was saying, we're in this consolidation area here, so we have multiple areas of potential resistance, including the prior high of 20.9150, which is only 31 points from here. If we look at the shape of the cloud in the future, we see that we have the cloud is all the way down here. We don't need to worry about retesting the cloud unless we lose the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen, so we'll see what happens. Actually, when the new candle opens this evening, chances are the Tenkan-sen will be tipping up, offering a higher level of support than previously its previous close due to the momentum to the upside that happened last week. You can also note that the Chikou bounced off the top of the candle. This candle here on the prior week's candle did hold this support. We did trade below that during this candle, but and actually we might as well look at, I'll just briefly show you the daily. We do have an open body gap here on the daily. That's all the way down at 20.84. So we could get that gap filled at some point, but anyway, this is the weekly Ichimoku wrap. So moving forward, the cloud going into we have a little bit of a ramp up here in the cloud going into the middle of December, and then a little bit of a dip down following into the end of the year between Christmas and New Year's. Then we have really solid upside support into the new year, so I would not be surprised to see some rallying into the new year. Between now and then, we'll see. Let's look at crude next. Crude sold off on Friday, causing the weekly candle to close inside the cloud. So let me zoom in a little bit more. We see that crude is now neutral in Ichimoku terms. We would need to regain the top of the cloud in order for crude to become bullish again. If we do regain the top of the cloud, that's currently located at 43.94, so only not too far away, only about 82 points away. And then if we do move higher, if we do get back out of the cloud and move higher, we will have resistance at the Kijun-sen, currently at 45.71, and the Tenkan-sen above that at 47.63. We have a flat cloud moving forward, which suggests sideways price action. Flat clouds are also attractive, so could keep price near the top of the cloud here for a while. We do also have a cloud twist. That is the week of 12/19 coming up, so you want to be careful if you are long in this area. Price tends to be able to break through clouds at twist areas, so we could lose the cloud support here. It's a possibility. The Chikou over here has a lot of levels of potential resistance to the upside also. Next week it's going to be interacting with this candle and the Tenkan-sen here. So the Tenkan-sen is at 42.40 potential support. So if we do find more selling, we could find support when the Chikou comes into the Tenkan-sen at 42.40. So that would be a good potential buy zone if we do see continued selling. Then if we do move higher next week, we could expect to find resistance at the bottom of this candle, which happens to be 46.28, which is just slightly above the, or a fair bit above the Kijun-sen, which is currently at 45.71. Let's look at some other U.S. indexes. Some pretty crazy action there. The NASDAQ, let's look at. So the NASDAQ put in a very long-legged doji, really, with very small actual candle body. Candle body did close above the Tenkan-sen, Tenkan-sen being at 47.39. We did put in a close at 47.42, so full on bullish in Ichimoku terms. It's important to be wary that there is a potential head and shoulders forming here. So if we do put in a right shoulder, that could be an accurate pattern. And in fact, if it was a similar shape and size to the left-hand shoulder, that would set us up for a potential sell right above this very thin area going into the new year. So it's important to be careful, right at New Year's, beginning of January, of the potentiality there. And in fact, the measured move would be probably about to there also. So I'm not saying that will happen. In fact, sometimes the most bullish patterns are failed head and shoulders, when everybody thinks it's going to be a head and shoulders and it fails. We get a strong move to the upside. The cloud going into the beginning of next year is looking quite supportive for a bullish type move. So it's important that for bulls to hold above the Tenkan-sen here at 47.39. Otherwise, risk other levels below this level where we've seen prior support is going to be important. If we do sell, that area is let's see, 46.60, that 46.60 area. So keep an eye on that area. And as far as resistance to the upside, we have all sorts of chop in this consolidation area to potentially cause resistance. So it could be choppy trading up if we get up into a range, between maybe here and the prior highs, 48.68, thereabouts. All right, let's look at the Russell. The Russell was just out of control, and you may have noticed, especially at the end of all day Friday, it was just ripping much higher. We didn't put in a all-time high. We came very close. The all-time high was 1292.50. So we put in a high of, let's see, 1283.90. So really not that far away, less than 10 points away from the prior all-time high on the Russell. We are fully bullish in Ichimoku terms, so we could test that prior higher next week, no problem. If we do get a pullback, we can look at some prior resistance turning into support around the 1250 area. Let's look at the Dow. Similar to the, and I did draw some fibs on this before, they're still there. We did make all-time highs, new all-time highs on the Dow. all the way up at 18,833, which is actually above this consolidation zone, so a solid break above this consolidation zone. So if we do get a pullback, we can look for potential support at the top of this consolidation zone, which I like to measure the fibs from candle bodies, so I'm looking at 185.45 thereabouts, or 18,545 as potential support. If we get a pullback, then we could possibly see some flagging sideways. We have a sideways looking flag going into the sideways looking cloud going into the end of the year, so flagging sideways is entirely possible. And then we do have a nice supportive rising cloud into the beginning of the year for the Dow. All right, let's look at the metals. I did release a separate video on the metals. You can find that on my YouTube page and on my Twitter feed and on my Facebook feed and on my LinkedIn feed. If you are a metals trader, you might want to check in with that because I did go over the monthly time frames also. We'll start off with gold. Gold had quite a lot of selling on Friday, as did silver. We came down and almost tested the top of the cloud, but didn't quite make it, and then did catch a bounce off the lows, a nice bounce off the lows. So depending on what happens next week, we could potentially test the top of the cloud again. That would be at 1215.90. Or the bottom could be in, and we could find potential resistance around 1250, and then resistance at the Kijun Sen and the Tenkan Sen above, where they end up opening up next week. If we do sell further and we do not hold the top of the cloud, then we could test lower all the way down to the bottom of the cloud, which is at 1175.70. So keep that in mind if we do see further hard selling or any selling going into next week. Let's look at copper. I don't usually go over copper, but copper has been crazy. So you see, this is we did put in a sort of a bottoming type pattern on copper, and I had drawn this rising channel off the lows, and indeed we broke out significantly from that channel. But we did put in a long topping tail last week, but we did close above the cloud, so we went from being bearish 3 weeks ago to closing neutral inside the cloud, retesting outside the cloud to the downside 2 weeks ago, and then last week starting off in neutral territory, blasting ridiculous ripping through the cloud, and then closing above the cloud. However, the cloud is not shaped in a way that is particularly supportive for higher prices going forward. We have a bit of a cliff. So it's entirely possible that we could retest even possibly this top of this channel that I had drawn, which is going to be at around 2.4195, I'm going to say. So if we do find more selling, you can check that level for potential support, or we can see the top of the cloud, which is at 2.385, and then we have support all the way down through the cloud to the cloud bottom, which is at 2.1498. Let's call it 2.15. All right, let's look at silver. I did go over these lines that I drew in the silver video that I released separately on Friday. I drew this trend line, sort of the best I could do, and we did not hold this trend line on a closing basis for the first time in quite a long time, since the beginning of 16, the beginning of this year. We also did not hold this other level, which was a prior bounce area, prior support. We also closed below that prior support level. So it's entirely possible we could continue lower in silver. If we do, we have some other potential areas of support brought on by not only the Chikou coming into candles, the Chikou is going to come into this candle next week. The top part of the point of the candle is right at that prior support zone of 1746 thereabouts, or actually 1743, but close enough. Then we have the open of that candle at 1714 below. So those two levels could offer potential support if we do, only sell a little bit and then catch a bounce. Otherwise, the further we go, the more the likelihood is that we could test the cloud. It would be a wonderful potential buy setup if we did actually come all the way down to the cloud, especially good for people that are looking to buy some physical silver or something like that. Buying some around the around the $16 range could be a very nice investment. We do have a rising cloud into the end of the year and a pretty thick cloud going into next year. So as long as we remain above the cloud, price action is bullish for silver. But immediately, since we closed under the Kijun-sen and the Tenkan-sen, be caution of this in this area below. Let's look at some treasuries. Another hit and run. But we are at a very interesting juncture. This is another wonderful reason to learn Ichimoku and learn a little trick about Ichimoku. We see that we sold off significantly last week, and we were rejected by the Tenkan-sen and the top of the cloud after testing higher. And we sold all the way through the cloud, did not stop at the bottom of the cloud where we might have found support, and blasted right on through. And we did close down here at 155.11 after testing the top of the cloud. The top of the cloud is at 155.07. So we closed just 4 ticks off the top of the cloud when we got a little bit of a bounce. So that just shows you that the Chikou finding support at the cloud actually supported current price. I just want to take a quick look at the monthly with you. If we look at the monthly, we see we're still fully bullish and above the cloud, although we did close below the Kijun-sen here. So that is not ideal for a move higher. But if we can get back over the Kijun-sen at 157.19, that could be supportive. So let's go back to the weekly again. So it's important if you want to be bullish on bonds, and if you're thinking about buying the dip here based on this Chikou support, it's important for price action to get back into the cloud ASAP, and that level is at 159.02. So that should offer resistance, but a close above that would put price action back into neutral trend rather than bearish. Let's look at the 10-year. Okay, so this is different from the 30-year. The 10-year, the Chikou did not hold the cloud, so the Chikou closed below the cloud, which is not looking too bullish for the 10-year. I do have some prior fib levels on here, so this 126.5 level could offer potential support. It's an old 50% fib. Other than that, we do have a rising cloud, but that's not going to help us get back from bearish to bullish again unless we can get price action back at least inside the cloud, and inside the cloud would be over 128.24 is where we need to break through in order to get back into the neutral cloud. Let's look at the dollar. All right, so looking at the dollar, we see that we came down and tested the Kijun-sen inside the cloud, slightly below the Kijun-sen, and put a hardy bounce off the top of the cloud and closed above the Tenkan-sen. So the dollar is bullish in all ways, Ichimoku, and there's no reason to think it can't go higher for now, except for the fact that the cloud going into the future is flat. That suggests some more sideways, choppy price action. Let's take a quick look at the Nikkei. You might hear some scratching in the background. That's my other cat trying to knock my monitor over onto my desk. Nikkei putting in potentially a nice, kind of crazy looking inverse head and shoulders type bottoming pattern. We really want to see price action get back above the cloud if we want to be bullish on the Nikkei. That's at 17,903. If we look at the bigger picture here, we see that we're considerably off the highs. But you know, this does look potentially like a messy bottoming pattern. So currently we're still neutral in Ichimoku terms for the Nikkei. And I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in being notified when I release new videos, please do hit the red subscribe button below. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section below. And if you're interested in learning Ichimoku or more about what I do in teaching Ichimoku in my chat room, please visit my website at CloudChartist.com. And if you like this video, please do give me a thumbs up below. All right. Good luck trading this week, and have a great rest of the weekend. That was the cat knocking the monitor onto my lap. Take care.